basically this is what happened with the house.
Oh, with your mom's home?
Yeah. So in the will, then my mom wanted the home to go to one of my brothers, but then this one is saying that she gave the house away for $10 to the church.
What?
The existence, like if you look at when it was filed, it doesn't look like her signature in some ways.
Or even they could have just
Like the R's are different.
Right.
The P's are different.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Amanda Ray and I escaped a polygamous cult known as the Order, and today we have a special guest here, my cousin Andrew. He has wrote a book. I'm going to leave his book in the description box down below. It's called Escaping the Kingdom of God. He did a really good job at not only telling his story in a way that makes you feel like you're there, but also I feel like you did a really good job covering the woman's side of it. And we'll talk a little bit more about how he wrote his book and the stories that are in the book. But if you want to purchase the book, I will leave a link to this in the description box down below. But before we get into talking about all of that, let's just explain who Andrew is. You have seen two of his full siblings on my channel before, his brother Joe and his sister Julie. I'll leave their videos in the description box down below as well. But do you want to explain like what number of child you are, what number of wife your mom is, your dad, all of that?
My mom's Patricia Robinson, the third wife from Daniel Kingston. I think my mom had 13 kids.
Oh, wow.
And
You're one of the older ones, you said?
I think I'm in the middle.
Okay.
I think I share the middle with my younger sister.
Okay, so you grew up as one of Daniel's kids. A lot of our viewers know and do not like Daniel for obvious reasons. But let's talk a little bit about your childhood in the Order, because you have a man's perspective. Growing up in the Order, I know as a woman I was like pressured like crazy to start getting direction for who I'm supposed to marry. Did they also do that to you?
Yeah. Yeah, we would have meetings all the time, and we would have preparation for marriage meetings.
And that's like all the boys in one room?
Yeah, we would separate the boys and girls. And we would always hear about how my dad always knew he was going to marry Rachel Ann, his first wife, and then his second wife, but we would never really hear about my mom's story.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's, well, later on, like after I left the Order, kind of we're trying to figure out what really happened. Then it seemed like she was kind of forced to marry my dad. She had someone else in mind, but
they pushed her to marry Daniel instead of the guy she wanted?
Yeah.
I think I've heard a loose version of this story, and she was really young, right?
She actually wasn't too young.
Really?
Yeah, so and that's the thing, they would never really tell us about my mom and Daniel, but when I was engaged then, my mom went to my wife and said, "Oh, you got engaged at the same age I did," which was 19.
Okay. So, I mean, maybe for some viewers 19 is young, but for the Order that's actually old. Yeah, that's like old maid status, because a lot of the girls are married as teens. But do you think that had something to do with, because your parents are half siblings? Do you think that's also why they kind of hush-hush, didn't really talk about the marriage very much?
I think so. I think she was more of from what I hear now, I think she was more on the rougher side of that generation, and with her wanting to marry someone else, and it sounded like she got moved to, I think, Idaho for a little bit.
Because she wanted to marry someone else? Or
they kind of just put the bad kids there.
Oh, and she was a bad kid? The bad kids?
I mean, I guess, but...
Yeah, I always wonder too with the incest marriages, because I didn't even know that my dad had a third wife till I had siblings from that third wife, and then come to find out, after I found out that he had that third wife, years later I found out it was his sister. So it's even like us in our own family, we don't really know much about what's going on. So did you know though most of your life that your mom was married to her half brother? They kind of talked about it openly, or no?
They didn't talk about it openly. I don't know when I found out, but I always knew my dad had a lot of wives. Mm-hmm. Kind of being in the middle of Daniel's family, probably closer to the older generation, but still close, like kind of in the middle. A lot of family events, a lot of gatherings that, like I don't have a memory of me not knowing who my dad was or that we was in polygamy.
I think also too because, so for me, I was one of the older kids, so they lied to me about who my dad was, but the younger kids always knew. Because like by then they were like, okay, the jig is up. Like we can't keep the secret. So maybe because you were the middle kid, you kind of got that benefit of both worlds in a way. Were you allowed to call him dad?
We just always called him Daniel.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed. All of Daniel's kids call him Daniel. I think Rachel's kids called him daddy.
Yeah.
No? Yeah.
Yeah, and it was weird to hear them call him daddy. Cause
even me hearing it, I was like, whoa, that's weird.
It's like, why don't you just call him Daniel?
Yeah, like what's going on? But it's rumored that she was the favorite, or one of the favorites. She did just recently pass away. How did Daniel take that, or do you know any information on that?
I'm not sure how he took it.
I mean, obviously I don't know, but I've heard through the grapevine that it was hard on him because she was like one of the favorites, but that's like so messed up because he had so many wives. What about your mom when she passed away? Was that hard on him? Why does it seem like he's giving more time to that family?
Yeah.
Did you feel that favoritism when you were a kid?
Yeah, you would feel it, but one thing that was really common, or one thing that I realized when it comes to being close to Daniel and him being around a lot, he seemed to treat the people closest to him the worst. So
really,
yeah.
So were you pretty close to him?
There would be times where I would work closer with him, and then work kind of at a distance, and then I realized, this is when I still like believed in the church. Mm-hmm. Like I came to the realization that my relationship with Daniel is better when there's a distance.
Yep.
But
because if you're his right-hand man, then you're going to just be doing all of his dirty work. Do you think that Jacob Kingston that went to prison was his right-hand man at some point?
Yeah, he really loved him, especially when he was bringing in all that money.
Wow. That's the scary part, too. It's like if you're too much in his pocket, then you could go to prison.
Yeah, there was a meeting I remember having where he was kind of asking for volunteers to take the blame for things that are going to come up legally.
Really?
Yeah.
Were people volunteering?
Yeah, people volunteered.
Oh my gosh. You did preparation for marriage classes, and you did eventually get married in the order. How old were you?
21.
21, okay. Was Daniel pushing you really hard, or did you feel like you were praying and you were going at your own pace?
I was pushing it. My wife was pushing it. I would say more, luckily, that she did. Or I'm lucky that she did, because if she hadn't, then I was pretty loyal at that time.
Yeah. You were dedicated to whatever Daniel said.
Yeah.
That is crazy. So then at this time, too, when you were getting married, did you work for Daniel, too?
Yeah.
Okay. How was that being his working for your dad? And he's your dad, but then he's also your boss, and then he's also the guy you go to for direction in marriage, right? Yeah. What was it like?
I talk about this briefly in the book, and it might be a little bit confusing, but there was a moment I was working with my dad. I had a lot of expenses just to operate and do the job that was required because the company wasn't going to pay for like a truck.
Which company was this?
This was the Wave Runner Rentals.
Okay.
Well, there's all these things that you would think a business would have for their employees to use, but he kind of just passed the expenses on to his kids and the workers.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, the feeling was, and I remember it really well because I left more than once. But
left the order? Really? Because of this? The way he was treating you?
It was basically I was working, I couldn't stay afloat, and I just remember the feeling of it felt like I was treading water, and he was holding my head underwater, and I was drowning, and I couldn't.
Oh my gosh. I just interviewed someone who literally described it very similarly, but he had a family, he had kids, and he was telling me that he basically was begging Daniel for a raise because he's like, I cannot afford to take care of my family. And Daniel was like, well, like kicked him maybe a $2 raise and then laid him off. And then got mad at him for getting, what's it called when you get laid off and you get money from the...
Unemployment.
Unemployment.
Yeah.
Yes. So that means Daniel hasn't changed for years because this guy left the order years before you did. So Daniel's just been getting away with treating people like this. And was he mad at you for... Did you ever push back? And then what... Obviously because you left.
Yeah.
Right? What happened in that process?
I went to the office. I tried to get some money out. They said I needed to have Daniel call them or have a letter from him. Mm-hmm. So I wrote down a letter and said it's only going to be this amount of money. It was a lot less. Daniel signed it for me to like get them to do the job. And I went and changed the number to a higher number. I went to the office.
Smart.
And, yeah, but then at that time I think I was 19 and I didn't know how to survive on the outside.
Right.
And then my mom was still around and she like pulling at those heartstrings.
Yeah, you don't want to leave when she's there and yeah. Oh yeah, that's the number one thing I think that keeps people there. Your family and you don't know if you're going to see them again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was she very big on just stay in the order, listen to Daniel, it's going to be okay?
Yeah, I kind of look at it as my mom would kind of hold the sheet over what the monster was, and when she passed, then it was gone and I saw Daniel for what he was.
Yeah. And
I started seeing what was going on. And
how did he act when your mom did pass away?
Mainly like the first little while, then he was just mainly upset because she changed her will to have a lot, I guess, all of her businesses, all of her stuff go to her kids. Mm-hmm. She also had the $1 million life insurance policy. She changed the beneficiaries from the church to her kids.
And she didn't let him know?
Yeah, he didn't know.
Wow. Oh, that actually is really sweet. She really cared about you guys and wanted to make sure you were taken care of. But that's all he was thinking about was like, where's my money?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's interesting, like you can get this stuff. Basically, this is what happened with the house.
Oh, with your mom's home?
Yeah. So in the will, then my mom wanted the home to go to one of my brothers. But...
Is this the deed or the...
Yeah, so you can actually get this from the Salt Lake Recorder's office. But the thing that's interesting about it is you got the warranty deed that's showing when she bought it. Mm-hmm. But when it was filed was in 2010. Another thing that's interesting, so it's the February 3rd of 2009 she signed this, so getting the house.
Right.
She got a trust deed for the loan.
Okay.
Basically a promise to pay on that same day. And this was also filed on February of 2010. And it's filed to the Salt Lake Recorder's office. But then this one is saying that she gave the house away for $10 to the church.
What?
The existence, like if you look at when it was filed, 2022, so 12 years after, the existence of this...
Wait, 12 years after she even passed away, right?
Yeah, but it's saying it happened on the exact same day.
Oh.
So all on the same day, she got a warranty deed, trust deed, and signed away the home. It's saying it all happened on the same day.
Weird.
But this only came into existence, I believe, when the house, when I guess people wanted to, some of her family members was wanting it to go according to the will. Mm-hmm. And go
like,
to that brother.
All of a sudden they have this piece of paper.
Yeah.
And they've been known, like I've heard so many stories of fake notaries. Yeah. Like they have someone that does notaries for the order. And so
even looking at the signatures, there are a lot of things that I believe look different. It doesn't look like her signature in some ways.
Or even they could have just...
Like the R's are different.
Right.
The P's are different.
Like someone just tried to mock it.
Yeah, and there's people that I guess I know of that said that that was their job too.
To fake notaries?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's kids that are underage that say they remember, like ex-order members saying that they remember having to sign off for other people.
Yeah.
Did she sign a Form 6? We were going to talk about Form 6. So you got married. You wanted to buy a home too.
Yeah.
But you have to go through a process in the order called Form 6. But that must be new. I don't think your mom did that, did she?
Not that I know of, because if and just a little bit background of Form 6, in the order, then we're taught that it's this really, like, it's an honor to be able to read this and sign this form. But
Yeah, how did they present it to you? Because I never had a house in the order, so I don't know what it's like to even buy, or even the steps to even buy a home. Do you want to kind of walk us through, like walk the viewers through as if we're just new to the situation? Like, let's say I want to buy a home in the order. Obviously, you have to get it approved. What's that process?
So you got this packet called the approval. There's an approval to look packet, approval to buy packet. The difference is you're not even allowed to look for a new home unless you got the approval to look packet approved before.
And that's then, like having a meeting with Paul or what?
It's a list of things, and they put like what is your budget on there? Did you sign Form 6? And like just down the list. And they were still developing it, and I'm sure they're still developing it. Mm-hmm. But at that time, then Form 6 was just one of the things you got to check off, and they basically sit you in a room. They won't let you take pictures of Form 6. They won't let you
leave with the form.
Yeah, they won't let you leave with the form.
I've never seen a form, and it's because of that reason no one's allowed to take one. Yeah. And that's why I'm like, what is on this form that they're making people sign and not letting them keep a copy of?
Yeah, and they're also just praising it, saying if you ever get the opportunity to do it, then like it's such a blessing.
Did you feel like that at the time? You're like, oh wow.
Nah.
You're like, wait a minute.
At that time, I was like, yeah, I don't like. But at the time I left, I didn't believe in the church at all. Mm-hmm. But basically, Form 6 is saying that you're going to turn in everything you have financially to the order, even down to your thoughts, your talents, your kids' talents, and your wife or wives. Everything that you have, you are turning it into the church. Mm-hmm. So, and that would remind me of like Daniel making comments of that he kind of already turned us in to the church.
Like your property?
Yeah. They pressured me into signing it, but at the same time, I was like, obviously this form isn't legal.
Yeah. Even me when I was in the order, there was a point where I was like, there's no way that this would hold up in court.
Yeah.
Like, how can you own another person? That's basically saying, I own your thoughts. I own your everything. I think that they know, and tell me if you agree with this statement. Because as someone who was in the order and had to be guilt-tripped into signing these 10% forms and these inventory forms, I think that what they hope for is that we are not educated enough to know that there is not really a huge standing on a lot of this stuff. So we'll be either, dedicated to the church and want to do this stuff, but then eventually realizing that we signed all of this stuff and then feel obligated to it, feel like we owe the church because we don't really know what the laws are, we don't really know how the world works. So if we become a member who's swaying from the church, that keeps us in because we're fearful that it actually has some standpoint. I don't know. At least that's what worked for me. For a little bit I was like, can they hold it against me? And I just made sure that I didn't sign anything. I only signed stuff as a minor because I'm pretty sure the laws are different for minors versus adults.
Yeah. It's for sure just a scare tactic to get people to comply. And if they ever choose to leave, then they think that they could go after them. But I don't think we'll ever see a Form 6 or even a 10% form in any courtroom.
Yeah. Right. Because if any courtroom saw Form 6, like based on what you just described, it would get thrown out so fast.
Yeah.
Like, we abolished slavery.
I read it and I was like, yeah, this is not legal.
That's ridiculous.
But it's also, if a person is questioning if they're going to leave the order, you have to remember you have a community of potential fraudulent witnesses, notaries, everyone of almost every profession to come at, like, the order can defend or attack anyone with any type of story that they can think to come up with.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in a courtroom and you got like 1,000 people from the order testifying against you that a lie is actually true, then it's kind of like good luck.
Yeah, that is the one hard part, is they can get people to lie for them. They are a cult, and so people, just like how you're saying, they were raising their hand. They were volunteering to be someone who's going to lie for Daniel and lie for the leadership. Because to them, it's a badge of honor. Yeah. It's like, I'm lying for God's kingdom on earth. And I do remember as a kid thinking similar stuff. Like, we cannot tell the outside world about this, you know, you don't cast your pearls before swine. They teach you from day one to be that loyal follower. But with your mom's home then, did that ever get resolved? Or did they fight to keep it?
So we had some, like, the family members that left that tried to execute the will. And this is a will that we believe got destroyed, because after my mom passed, then we showed Daniel the will that it was actually different than what he believed. And that was the last time we saw it.
And wow. That is crazy.
Yeah, we tried to execute the will that we believed exists, and we have like half of my mom's family, a little bit more, saying just give it to the church. Because
half are in, and then you have 5 of you out, and you're like, no, we need to honor what our mom wanted, not what Daniel wants. Yeah. But I'm sure they're like, well, but Daniel's a numbered man, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, they're just going to execute, or they're going to side with the order, so...
Right.
A judge...
But that's not fair.
Yeah, a judge is going to look at it and be like, I don't know what you guys want, because it's so confusing. They can't even understand it.
Yeah, it's so frustrating, too, because I remember talking to Joe, and he was saying... even down to her things, they were trying to get you guys to have to... You guys, as her children, have to buy her things back from the order.
Yeah.
How did that happen? Were they like, hey, pay up if you want any of this stuff, or else we're going to take it away?
Yeah, they said, find the value of the everything that she owns, and you're going to have to buy it. And...
Pay Daniel?
I think so. Or pay the church. But
oh, I hate that. This story always makes my blood boil. Daniel, to me, is like he doesn't know how to have empathy. He doesn't know how to care about, just like how you're saying, when you're the closest ones to him get burned the most, which are the ones who love him the most, right? The ones that are loyal to him the most. Yet he sees that as a way to just take advantage. He doesn't see it as a connection. He sees it as, how much can I use you? Yeah. And that's what it sounded like he did to you. Like, even working for him, it sounded like he was looking at you as, like, how far can I push him? And he did. He pushed you probably to your limits.
Yeah. It's kind of like a game of push and pull. The closer you are to him, the worse you're treated. And then as you create that distance, he starts treating you better to kind of try and pull you in again. Yeah. And it's
like narcissism.
One of the best things about Daniel is he made it obvious to me that the order's a scam. Yeah, and that's the blessing in disguise. There's a part in your book that made me cry, and it's about him. You were talking about how you had a scare with one of your daughters, and they were in the hospital, and Daniel basically took the opportunity to make an example out of it. Do you want to share a little bit about that? Yeah, so at that time then, my daughter was in the hospital. No one really believed she would make it, because in the past, then anyone that, like, the order has seen, like, another kid share the same sickness and state, then they've never made it. Mm-hmm. And luckily at that time, they came out with it was a newer treatment, ECMO, where they take the blood out of the body, oxygenate it, put it back in, and to kind of give her lungs a break. Mm-hmm. But so she was in that state. I was working 2 jobs. One of them then that was just like some janitorial jobs at night. And like I told my dad about it. I thought he would be happy because I was staying really busy. But because I didn't talk with him before I did it, then it made him really upset, which was pretty surprising at that time to, like, I didn't know why he would be upset.
Right.
And he just said, whatever happens to that little girl is your fault. And
Wow.
I believe at that time that he thought that girl was going to die.
Wow. And he was just trying to basically twist the knife, make your pain worse, kick you while you're down. When I read that, I was like, I can't imagine, like, he really is a monster. I can't imagine a father who cares about his kids to say something like that. And I think I've just kind of given up on trying to understand him because he's just a narcissist at this point. But did you lose respect for him after that?
At that time, then I was in shock. I wanted to be on like his good graces, and I even volunteered my family to go work up at the Washkey farm that I hated working at. Like we would just move the family, go up there, and then as she got better, and the dust kind of settled, and I looked at it as it was really like a really manipulative thing for him to do, and I got upset and told him, I'm not going up there.
Yeah.
But
That's good.
he got pretty upset, and also hearing about some other people's situations, it's kind of just a tactic of whenever someone is in a crisis like that, then it can be a tool that's used to pull them in and make them more devoted to the church.
Yeah. He was just a very manipulative person. I also believe that he is partly to blame why your mom died so soon. I think. Yeah, what do you think? Because you were there. I just am piecing things together from what I've heard. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, when she was first diagnosed, then she went to a doctor, and like I wasn't in the doctor's room, but from what I've heard, the doctor was saying, you have a high success rate of surviving, like almost 100%.
Because it was cancer.
From like what I've heard, then they said a high success rate. They didn't even anticipate her passing away. But Daniel didn't want her to go through like traditional medicine.
Why do you think?
Well, that's the thing. It wouldn't even be expensive because in the order you can manipulate your income to get on assistance.
Right. So then why would he not want her to get that help?
They just always been against doctors and traditional medicine, and I think he saw that, well, she has $1 million life insurance policy, so if worst comes to worst, I get $1 million.
Wow.
But in a better situation, I find a cure to cancer.
Because he kind of she was the guinea pig, right?
Yeah. They would boil like coffee, do coffee enemas.
So he basically was just playing doctor.
Yeah. Getting just random machines that he would want her to sit in front of for treatments, and just weird diets that just starved her. Like by the time she passed, I don't know if she died from the cancer or starvation.
She was just losing a lot of weight and really...
She was starving.
Wow. They always put them on fasts when they're... Even my dad right now, they're making him... Because he has, I think it's bladder cancer. And they're just like, okay, we'll just go on a 40-day fast. But his sister, she was on a fast when she died. There's so many stories of people dying while they're on fasts. So
Yeah.
I don't know why they keep sticking to that narrative that the fasts are saving people when all these people are dying on fasts.
Yeah, like the night before she passed away, she was just begging for some almond milk, but Daniel would yell at us and yell at her if she strayed away from the diet that he forced her on.
Oh my gosh, so she didn't even really want to be on it.
No, she didn't want to be on it at all. Yeah.
What inspired you then to, after you left, what inspired you to write this?
I just wanted it to exist. That's the whole reason why I wrote it.
Yeah, you did really good. Did you have someone helping you edit and stuff?
Yeah, I did have a ghostwriter, and I didn't really know like the traditional way of going about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would ask for input, like, should I do this? And it was kind of like, sure.
Yeah, you're like, okay.
But
That's
yeah,
cool. Yeah, when I was reading, I was like, dang, that was really good. And I mean, I don't know if one day I would ever write a book, but if I do, it would be that way with the ghostwriter.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, because I kind of write the way I talk, but when you're like writing a book and writing a story, you kind of have to set the scene and all these things. But
was it hard for you to put pen to paper all these really traumatic points of your life?
it was, but the kind of the way I went about it is I kind of wrote down a story of like basically a timeline, and then every couple days, like I would think about what I would want to write about, and like some of the harder things I just say, yeah, I don't want to write about that now. I'll write about this, basically kind of what I'm feeling, and then I kind of put chapters together, and then kind of had this skeleton timeline, and the chapters I'd be like, okay, it makes sense to put this chapter right here, and then just different places. And
that would make sense, right? Because there are those really hard parts that you obviously want to dive into to be able to share that part. But there's definitely times where, I don't know if you go through this now, I still go through it, where there's days where I'm ready to talk about it, and there's some days where I'm like, don't ask me about it. I'm not ready to talk about it. And I think that's just like the motions of healing after leaving. Have you done therapy after leaving?
I did do some, and I talk about therapy a little bit in the book, and I think guys and girls are a little bit different.
Oh, yeah. Definitely with talk therapy. I think that women benefit, in general, women from cults have benefited more from talk therapy than men. Have you tried other forms of therapy?
I would say basically the most effective thing I did was kind of just sit down to my own thoughts, and like that's one thing that I think is different in guys, at least in me. Talking about my problems isn't really a stress relief.
Makes it worse.
Makes it worse.
Yeah. But did this kind of help with healing, do you think? Writing the book?
Yeah, it for sure helped. And like I kind of refer to it as kind of, you know how you're watching a scary movie, you know a monster's going to come out.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't want to look. It's more of just having the mindset of looking at that monster, understanding it, and kind of just
seeing it for what it is.
Yeah, just sitting with it.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I feel like that's kind of what I've had to learn in therapy, is that when there's a topic that I really don't want to talk about, it's something that I actually should be looking at and understanding why I feel this way. Same with triggers, though. Like, there's so many years of my life after leaving, when I would get triggered, when someone would say something or something would happen, it would trigger me, I would always run from it. Not until just recently I started to be like, wait, your trigger is telling you something about yourself. So maybe like lean into it and understand why it's happening. Because otherwise it's just going to keep happening. I've been out 11 years now, and I'm still discovering parts of myself that I wasn't allowing myself to discover because the order really created, they made us not trust ourselves.
Yeah.
How long have you been out now?
It was 2022, like January of 2022.
Oh, wow. How has your journey been out here?
It has its goods and its bad, because leaving, then like you have this whole community that knows you, and they have their opinion about you, and now that same community, like I guess I find myself saying to myself that most of the people that know about me believe I'm a bad guy.
Right, and that hurts.
Yeah. And
you have to just remind yourself, like, what helped me a lot, because I went through kind of a deep depression when leaving. I wasn't ever wanting to go back, but I missed, like, that community or what you thought it was, right? It never was what we thought it was. We thought that we were loved, we thought this and that, but no one who really unconditionally loved you is going to throw you under the bus the way they did when we chose to leave, right?
Yeah.
So I had to keep reminding myself that the love that I'm seeking, the kind of acceptance that I want, it's not there. It was never there. There was no such thing as unconditional love there. And it's kind of just a mind F, because you're brought up like loving your parents, idolizing your parents, and like the community you're in, and especially further in the order, because it's like, this is the place on earth. We're so lucky. And so you're ready to just die for the order, and then when you leave, you realize no one genuinely cared about me. They only cared about the kingdom of God, or whatever they want to call it. But yeah, that definitely was a hard thing for me to. I think it's the hardest part of leaving is losing your family. But not only you're losing your family, you're dead to them. It's like mourning the loss of someone who's still alive. And I don't even know how. I've never read a book on that, or there's no like step by step on how you recover from that. So it's like just taking it day by day. Do you feel like you went through a phase of like self-hatred or guilt or shame because, like what you just said, like more people than not think that I'm a bad person?
Yeah.
Because where we come from, they do benefit. Daniel benefits off of your self-esteem being low. So he wants your self-esteem to be low.
Yeah.
So then coming out here, it's really hard to build it back up, because your whole life, that's the voices that were speaking at you now is your internal dialogue.
Yeah, and that's the feeling I had when after I left, going back and talking to some people is, if you leave, then they really try to make an example of you. Mm-hmm. And the people I talked to, they just felt so sorrowful for me. It was like, oh man, now you're going to heck.
Yeah. Did they tell you? Like,
not exactly that, but they like had that presence, I guess.
You can feel it. Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely the energy changes. It's kind of like alarming. I remember there was a time where I was at a baby shower that I happened to get invited to. I was like, am I really allowed to go? Because like I'm a bad person to them. I went though, and the room shifted when I walked in. Like everyone was happy, and then I walked in and they're like, oh, she's here. Like everybody, don't be around her. You can feel it. They don't have to say it. You can feel it. But on top of that, I even did, the day after I left, I had people that I thought were my best friends saying things like, it's a good thing that you're leaving and not taking anyone else to heck with you. And I was like, oh, I didn't know you felt that way about me. But like, that's how they're raised. That's how they're trained. That's how they're brainwashed. And none of them have the sense of self that you can achieve when you're out of that to make the decision for themselves.
Yeah,
so.
And like I don't hold anything against them. Like I truly believe that the best people in the order, they stay in there forever. They are the ones that are abused the most, taken advantage of the most, and like,
it's true. The kindest ones,
they never leave.
Right. It's hard to think about too, because it's like they're also the ones that deserve the best. Yeah. But they're getting the worst treatment there.
Yep. Yeah, I truly believe that.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I left the link to Andrew's book in the description box down below. Let us know any questions that you have for Andrew, and I'd love to do a maybe part 2 with him, answering your guys' questions and diving deeper into his story. Thank you guys so much for always being so kind to our guests and to me. It means so much to me, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.